There were approximately 10 stab wounds on the side of his neck, and one was a little bit worse than the rest.
As they're working to grieve through this unimaginable tragedy.
Camping. It's one of those bucket list escapes. Picture the crackle of a campfire, the sky overhead a vast canvas of stars, and the world's worries slipping away. It's meant to be peaceful, rejuvenating, and unforgettable for all the right reasons. But sometimes the wilderness isn't quite as welcoming as hope. When things go south, they can go terribly, tragically wrong. Tonight's video dives into some of the most shocking and heart-wrenching tragedies that unfolded far from hospitals, far from help, deep in the wilderness. These tales are gripping not just because of what happened, but how swiftly the beauty and freedom of camping turned nightmarish. From ancient mysteries to modern-day horrors, every story reminds us that Mother Nature and human nature can be unpredictable. Let's take a slow walk through 5 of the worst deaths ever recorded in camping history, each one more haunting than the last. Get ready for Lake Bodom in Finland, Uluru in Australia, Bucks Lake in California, Pine Campground in Idaho, and Buckhorn Canyon in Colorado. No fluff, just the chilling truth behind every tragedy. Lake Bodom Murders, Finland, 1960. So first up, Finland, June 5th, 1960. 4 teenagers, 2 pairs of couples, decided to sneak away to Lake Bodom, about 22 kilometers west of Helsinki. The lake was a popular hangout, quiet but not remote, with a sentimental serenity that drew many. Mila Irmeli Björklund and Anja Tuulikki-Mäki, both 15, were there with their 18-year-old boyfriends, Seppo and Tero Boisman and Niels Wilhelm Gustafsson. Picture them, full of summer excitement, sharing a single tent perched on the shore, ready for laughter and late-night stargazing. They had no idea how swiftly that starlight would be replaced by horror. In the early pre-dawn hours, between 4 and 6 a.m., the campers were violently attacked right in their tent. There was no struggle, no scream reaching help. They were asleep. Outside, the assailants stabbed and bludgeoned. When the authorities finally arrived, they found Mila, Anja, and Seppo dead. Niels was alive but broken, literally, with a broken jaw, fractured face, a concussion. The newspapers said it was a chaotic mess. Witnesses talked of seeing a shadowy man in black, glowing red eyes. Utterly terrifying. What followed would become one of the most infamous cold cases in Finland. The crime scene was mishandled, contaminated, trampled by curious campers while soldiers searched for missing items. Keys vanished, Gustafsson's shoes disappeared, and by the time the police had secured anything resembling evidence, it was already too late. For years, rumors swirled. Locals whispered about a shopkeeper named Valdemar Gillström, a possible former spy Hans Asman. Strange sightings. Nothing ever stuck. Then, decades later, a breakthrough. In March 2004, DNA analysis turned up new evidence. But not on a stranger. It was Gustafsson's own. The survivor of the attack had become the suspect. The prosecution claimed that Gustafsson had started a fight, been rejected, felt rage, and returned to finish what he started, killing his friends and girlfriend, injuring himself, covering his tracks. His defense pointed out that with a broken jaw and bloodied face, he could barely walk, let alone commit triple murder and escape half a mile to bury his own shoes. In October 2005, justice caught up with real justice. Gustafsson was acquitted, cleared of all charges. No one ever paid for what happened in that tent on the shores of Lake Bodom. The answers remain elusive, like echoes on the water. Azaria Chamberlain case, Australia. Fast forward 2 decades to Australia, 1980. A very different type of tragedy, but no less soul-crushing. Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock, stood silent and awful witness. That July, Lindy and Michael Chamberlain, American-Australian parents, and their 2 tiny kids pitched their tent. 9-week-old Azaria was sleeping when chaos struck. Parents awoke to her cries. A dingo suit, the official story. They saw tracks, blood on the tent, her clothing snagged. Searchers, including trackers, followed prints that led through the desert. The public outcry took over. Rumors flew. police thought it odd. Dingoes don't take babies, so they launched Operation Oka, searching, seizing evidence, dismissing anything that smacked of dingoes. Instead, they chased Lindy. 2 inquests. The first found dingoes responsible, but the second, suddenly the story flipped. Lindy was accused of murder, Michael of assisting. The media coverage was savage. Headlines, speculation, bias. Prosecutors said Lindy slit her baby's throat in the car and tossed the body away. Evidence? A tiny stained jumpsuit, some hemoglobin in the car. That was it. In February 1982, the Chamberlains were tried. By October, Lindy was sentenced to life. Michael got 18 months, suspended. It felt like the verdict had more to do with public and political pressure than justice. It took years. In 1986, a piece of Azaria's jacket was discovered near dingo lairs. In 1988, Lindy was released. The convictions were quashed. In 2012, the coroner finally ruled a dingo attack caused Azaria's death. Only then did the world acknowledge the Chamberlains never did it. This case raised so many questions about how quickly fear, bias, and sloppy police work can twist the truth, and a family would never be the same. Trevor Holminski murder, California 2015. A modern American tragedy, Bucks Lake, Northern California 2015. Trevor Holminski, just 20, was a nature lover, so much so that his rough-cut documentary, Blue Crow, had showcased his survival skills. He was filled with dreams, ready to join the Marines, living life hard and fast. He and his friend Sheldon Stewart set off for a weekend of hiking, exploring. But things took a dark turn. They dropped acid and smoked weed that night. The mountain air, the firelight, the hallucinogens, it all combined into a deadly trip. Their behavior became erratic. One account says Trevor attacked Sheldon, but by morning, firefighters responded to a blaze. They found Sheldon in the woods, stabbed multiple times in the neck, and Trevor's body was charred in the campfire pit, smoking. The police questioned Sheldon. His story broke apart under scrutiny. His neck wounds looked self-inflicted. Trevor's wallet and ID were buried nearby. The campfire was still smoldering. Every detail pointed to Sheldon. He said Trevor had made unwanted advances, that he reacted in self-defense. But prosecutors said only one man had motive and opportunity. The jury agreed. First-degree murder and arson. Sheldon got 26 to life. It's a story that chills because it happened during what should have been a peaceful weekend. Drugs, fear, conflict, and a friendship gone horribly wrong. Cadence Easton Tree Collapse, Idaho, 2023. In the summer of 2023, Pine Campground in Boise National Forest became a place no family ever expected to mourn. The Easton family had 8 children, and right there in the tent slept 8-year-old twins. One was Cadence. Beside her was their loyal family dog, Zell. In the quiet of early morning, tragedy struck. A cottonwood tree, rotten to its core, snapped without warning. The tree crushed the tent. Cadence and Zell were instantly killed. First responders found Cadence's parents beside her, grief written into every second of their faces. The cause? Age, decay, maybe previous wildfires, moisture and time made the tree a silent threat, ready to fall. It's the kind of accident that leaves people struggling to breathe, to process. So many talk of what could have been had someone moved the tent, checked the trees. But sometimes, the first mistake is trusting that nature won't turn on you. A GoFundMe page drew the kind of love that happens when a community hurts. It raised funds for the funeral, for counseling, a literal flourish of kindness in a moment of unbearable loss. But for the Eastons, it won't bring their sparkle back. For Cadence, just 8 and full of childhood promise, it never should have happened. Lisa and Lily Schilling, Flash Flood, Colorado 2022. Our final story takes us to Buckhorn Canyon, Colorado, July 13, 2022. The place was familiar, a happy place for the Schilling family. 3 years earlier, the Cameron Peak fire had scorched the land. Now they came back to rebuild peace. Lisa Schilling, a 4th grade teacher, and her daughter Lily, just about to be 13, were nestled in a trailer with 2 dogs curled up inside. Rain arrived. It wasn't much, just enough to wake the creek a few inches. But those few inches opened the gates for something far worse. In a heartbeat, an enormous wall of trees, mud, rocks, and debris roared down the canyon. That trailer, which had been home, was ripped from its spot and thrown into the current. By evening, around 5 p.m., authorities were scrambling. Rescuers found Lisa and Lily half a mile downstream, drowned. It's the stuff of nightmares, something so catastrophic, so fast. Their trailer did what trailers do. It wasn't built for floods. The soil north of the burn scar couldn't soak up the water. It spilled over, collided with the trailer, and took 2 lives. The community rallied. Money poured in, nearly $14,000 by July 19th. But all the funds in the world can't reach back a clock. No one expected the same hills that gave families life and memories would lay down a death trap. The creek that once trickled peacefully behind their site became a loaded weapon. Lisa had once called it her favorite sound. Now it was the last sound she ever heard. Lily had just made plans for her birthday the next week. She never got the chance to celebrate. A neighbor camping nearby said the flood came so fast, they didn't even have time to grab their shoes. Search dogs combed the canyon floor for days, finding scattered belongings miles downstream. This wasn't just water. It was fury shaped by fire's aftermath, carving a scar through lives that had already endured too much. Each of these tragedies unfolded in places we turn to for peace, places we visit on purpose to escape. Lake Bodom, Uluru, Bucks Lake, Pine Campground, Buckhorn Canyon, names that once suggested serenity now carry the weight of devastating memories. These stories remind us of something deeply sobering. The beauty of camping often walks hand in hand with hidden risk. In Finland, an unsolved nightmare shattered the innocence of youth. In Australia, a mother's grief was magnified by injustice before truth finally cleared her name. Years stolen, only partially redeemed by vindication. In California, what began as a joyful night around the campfire turned into a scene of horror, all at the hands of someone they knew. In Idaho, a young girl and her loyal dog were taken in an instant by a silent threat, a tree that fell without warning. And in Colorado, the very ground shifted violently, swallowing 2 lives whole under a surge of floodwater and mud. We walk into the woods for quiet, for connection, for that feeling of being small beneath the stars and safe among the trees. But behind that calm exterior, tragedy sometimes lurks, just beyond the glow of the firelight, or hidden in the next gust of wind. These weren't careless people or thrill seekers flirting with danger. They were lovers of nature, campers, families, friends, people who trusted the outdoors. And in each case, that trust ended in heartbreak. If this video resonated, if the grief moved you, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Comments are a warm place. Leave your thoughts below. And let's talk about how we can adventure safely and remember those who didn't make it home. Camping will always belong in our souls, but staying alert, informed, and respectful of nature's power makes all the difference. Keep exploring, stay safe, and never take the wild for granted.